This is a generational heist for the Boston Bruins as Trent Frederic has just been traded. All of this breaking right now as we speak. Moments ago, trade for Trent Frederic right down to the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to be talking about all of this, the return, what's going on, and the beginning of the selling for the Boston Bruins has begun. Before we get into this video, very quickly, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. As I mentioned, the Boston Bruins trades are starting right now, and you won't want to miss any of it. I'll have it right here as it happens. But let's get straight into this. Here is the trade. I'll pull it up on the big one for us while we look at this. Trade number one. This is part of a three-way deal, including the Edmonton Oilers and the New Jersey Devils. The Boston Bruins trade Trent Frederic with 50% salary retention to the New Jersey Devils in exchange for unsigned draft choice Peter Hauser. Trade number two. The Devils trade Trent Frederic, 50% retained once again, to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for unsigned draft choice Shane Lachance, who is currently the captain of BU. And trade number three. Boston trade Max Jones and unsigned draft choice Peter Hauser to Edmonton in exchange for Max Wanner, St. Louis' second-round pick in 2025, owned by Edmonton, and Edmonton's own fourth-round selection in 2026. Now, this is so much more than we could have asked for as Boston Bruins fans. When we were waiting for a trade for Trent Frederic, the injury obviously was the big point of concern. Was the deal still going to go down? What would his value be after that? And now we see, not only did it stay the same, it got a lot better than we could have thought. A second-round pick and a fourth-round picks, and Max Wanner, who is a very interesting one that I will get into in a bit here in this video, is such a good return for the Boston Bruins, knowing what could have been without injuries and the way Trent Frederic has been playing this season and everything going along with that. This is such a good trade for the Boston Bruins. Now, here's the big one from the Boston Bruins. Own Twitter lays it out pretty nice. We get the 2025 second-round pick, a 2026 fourth, Max Wanner, a right-handed defenseman, keep in mind, Trent Frederic, and Max Jones going to the Edmonton Oilers. Now, looking at Max Jones, guys, I was high on him in the offseason. I know, I was very, very wrong. But Trent Frederic was a player that was disappointing us all. Now both going to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for a second and a fourth. Now, when we're looking at what is St. Louis is overall second round pick, this is a very good looking pick. It's not late, it's not going to be late, it's not going to be early. It's going to be nice and in that I would consider very late first type of range that we all like to see in those possible areas, but as well as including a 2026 fourth. Once again, can't complain about more picks, something the Bruins have been looking to do here in this trade deadline with all of the stuff going down. Max Wanner, that right-handed defenseman who is a very interesting look, and as quoted by a few scouts, a underdog, dark horse chance of making an NHL roster in this season. I will get into that article here now in a little bit, but continuing on with this trade, Chris Johnson pointed this out. It's very interesting to kind of look at how the Oilers' acquisition of Trent Frederic is playing out, because there's no really indication that Trent Frederic was going to return this season before the playoffs. He's on LTIR. He was not playing great this season, and realistically, the way that it kind of all played out, the most you would probably get for Trent Frederic, regardless, would probably be a third in my mind. That was what we were looking at. It's what I suspected, and many other people, reporters and analysts, all kind of breaking down that once Trent Frederic got hurt, it wasn't a very bad spot for the Boston Bruins to try and trade him because of his value going down and how his value was already much lower than what it would have been in the offseason. So when we're looking at the second, the fourth, obviously, first of all, clears up some cap room for the Boston Bruins to be able to make more moves, which are going to be coming very, very soon, as well as freeing up the roster spaces for a lot of these younger guys who are going to be pushing for roster spots here in the rest of this season, in the offseason, and heading into next season, with what's going to be a very different looking Boston Bruins team. But once again, when we're looking at Max Wanner, here is where things get very interesting and continues to add to this massive W of a trade for the Boston Bruins. You're looking at Max Wanner's stats here. They don't look great. Obviously, playing in the AHL, playing in WHL, that's really all we've seen so far from him. And what was a 2021 seventh-round pick in that COVID year, a lot of players were not given the opportunity to really show off their skills, to be able to really show what they're made of. And Max Wanner, I think, has been one of the biggest examples of that. Now, when you're looking at his stats last year with Bakersfield, 17 points to 68 games, really not horrible for a 20-year-old defenseman in the AHL. Although, you're heading into this year, 22 games, only 2 points. But we get a good idea of what he can produce and how he can produce with Moose Jaw in his final 2 years there. 30 points and 23 points respectively, 44 and 55 games once again respectively. He has been a very interesting player to look at and has been one of the big interesting prospects in the Edmonton Oilers system by their own staff and scouts. When we go back to that article I mentioned earlier about the scouting, this is what they had to say about him. He's long and rangy and plays with a miserable bite, the scouts said. To me, he has all the markings of a guy who can get an NHL shot at some point and will sink or swim based on that ability to keep up with the pace of it. Given how harsh he is to play against, I don't mind his odds. Now, this was, once again, in an article about him being a dark horse to make this year's Edmonton Oilers roster on the right side, and knowing that their defense is pretty depthy, that is an interesting thing to kind of put him into that category as. And the fact that we're looking at a guy who, once again, right-handed defenseman, has not really been given the opportunity to show and prove himself because of that draft year, because of all the things kind of leading up to that. And once again, because the Edmonton Oilers are a very good team, he gets a great opportunity here in Boston to be able to show off his skills. And, as that dark horse perspective comes into it, this could be that year for him, especially with the Boston Bruins. As we know, Charlie McAvoy is out. We're rocking Andrew P. currently on the first line. He's been kind of floating back and forth with Brandon Carlo. Brandon Carlo being in the trade market as of late. Once again, I made a video earlier just before this one about a pregame. That will come out later, so now don't mind the timeline of that. But Brandon Carlo being linked to the Winnipeg Jets as well as the Calgary Flames. We could be very short on right-handed defensemen, and we could see Max Wanner here make this team and really show that, what kind of player he's made of. And with the Boston Bruins this year, and as I've mentioned in a few previous videos as well, at this point, there is nothing to lose. But as we do look at this trade, I'll pop back to the main one here, looking at the 50% retained. Trent Frederic being, making $600K on the Edmonton Oilers is a very good steal for them. Obviously, I think it's a great trade all around. Once again, would have loved Shane Lachance on the Bruins organization. Him being the captain of BU really just, would have added to that homegrown talent that Boston has, that they love to have from Boston College, Boston University, and, the surrounding areas. That would have been cool to see. But Max Jones now off the books. Trent Frederic off the books. Time is coming, ladies and gentlemen, for more trades. And as we look at Trent Frederic this year, once again, not great. 15 points in 57 games. Has not been playing the way he wanted to. Minus 14 on the year. 13 minutes, 50 seconds time on ice a game. Just under 14. Just turned 27 years old as well. Made a video on his birthday there a couple days ago. But now, with the uncertainty of where he will end up in the offseason, it will be interesting to see what his contract will be, who's interested. If the Boston Bruins circle back, we never really know, especially with the UFA, a 2025 second-round pick, a 2026 fourth-round pick, and going to Max Wanner as well. I love this deal, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's a steal for the Boston Bruins, as they do have now the time to make more moves. If you want to get all your Boston Bruins trade updates right here, coming out as soon as possible, just like this, right after the trade, you'll have it right here. Hit the sub button, go follow the Spotify, go follow the Apple Music. Be sure to do both of those. But thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.